Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
Always, always. And now joining the show, he's coming on every Monday as well with Mid-Major Matt. We're talking Monday Night Football props. We're also putting together an SGP every Monday. We're going to do it live on the air. We'll show it through the Pickett app so you can see where it gets the best odds. Let's bring him on, my good friend, Jared Block, coming over from Trinity Analytics. How are you today?
I'm doing great. I just caught the end of that last snippet. Just gonna throw my Brewers team in the mix as well.
Oh, you trust them? Get out! You don't trust
No,
them.
actually, we were talking on today's Trinity Analytics MLB podcast, and we're like, this Phillies Dodgers series tells us a lot. It's gonna be our first action of October, and should tell us a lot about how things could go. We'll see how it goes, but I'm super excited for all the late night action tonight. Before we get started, I don't want to just take over the show, but I want to get your thoughts on this whole Monday night thing being a 10 p.m. start. How do you feel about that?
Horrible. I think it's a terrible thing. It's terrible for us East Coasters. I probably, if it's not a good game, I'm definitely turning it off in the second half and going to bed. It's just terrible. I don't understand why on Monday, September 15th, we are having a 10 p.m. Eastern time game between the Raiders and the Chargers. It's dumb. I
was actually a fan of both games happening at the same time or like overlapping. It felt more like a Sunday afternoon, but I guess we'll see how it goes today. It's only 1 hour difference for me. It starts at 9 my time, so it's gonna make for a long Tuesday, that's for sure.
It's not terrible for old hoagies, Sean Michael. It's terrible for East Coasters. I have to wake up in the morning. Marley wakes up at 7 a.m. My dog. For anyone that doesn't know, I do not have a child. My dog. We do have Monday Night Football, 2 games tonight, 7 o'clock, 10 o'clock. Those are the start times. So I'm very pumped, though, to get your thoughts. I know that we were talking a little bit about some of the props we would like to throw in an SGP. Mid-Major Matt, you missed the beginning of his hit, came on and said he liked the same field goal prop as you. So whether it's over field goals or kicking points in general, how come you like Jaime Fairbairn?
Yeah, I mean, Fairbairn was just an absolute wagon last year. Just to pull up the stuff the trends that he had, he is basically this is kind of the state of Houston's offense at the moment, but he's basically their second most exciting fantasy piece outside of Nico Collins. He had 2+ field goals made in 15 of 19 games last year, specifically 7 of 9 games at home. So he's a trustworthy kicker at home in a dome, which is always good. He made 3 field goals last week in the dome. So, and all just outside of Brandon Aubrey, who absolutely won people fantasy leagues yesterday, he's the most consistent kicker in the game. And I do think that if you look at the offensive line stuff for Houston, that stuff doesn't look good. They just lost their center, Jake Andrews, to an ankle injury. And so kind of like last night for Trinity Analytics members, we kind of hinted at if we have offensive line issues and if we have a little bit of shaky quarterback situations, we can trust kickers early on in the season. So I do think that bodes well for the Fairbairn stuff. I'm not expecting, we'll talk more about Stroud because I know you have a lot of notes on that, but we should get a matchup where they should be in a spot to be on the opposite side of the field quite a bit.
If you were to choose one or the other, would it be over 1.5 field goals? Would it be over his points? Which one would you go?
I would go with the field goals. They've shown with Stroud at QB that they're willing to let things go into Fairbairn's hands for 4th down situations.
Yeah, and when you look at the odds, it does tell you that -135 over on the kicking field goals and +100 over on the points. I typically go towards more kicking field goals as well, more so than points, but that's just my personal preference. You also were talking about the Baker Mayfield over rushing yards is something that you were liking. Why?
Yeah, I think Baker is showing that he is willing to actually go out there and scramble when necessary. We did see that against the Falcons last week, which ended up in a 39 rushing yard performance.
Look at those road numbers, by the way, last year for Baker.
I know. He ran the football more than 20 yards in 7 of 8 road games, more importantly, as well. And I do think that, you look at, which we never should focus on this for DVP, defense first position stuff for this year until we get 4-week sample. That's usually what I go by. Matthew Stafford not running at all. That's who Texans played last week. So I think we're getting a little bit of a lower market on Baker coming into this specific matchup. Texans did allow the 12th most rushing yards to the QB position last season. I think this is more about the fact that not only is Baker just in a spot where he's willing to scramble, like I said, this is a spot where we have a lot of teams with really, really high pass rate and specifically pass rate over expectation in week one. And we had a spot where the Bucks did rank 7th in pass rate over expectation. So if we're going to see an up in tempo game and on the other side, if Houston's been able to actually be more efficient than they were last week, I do think that just gives us more plays, more dropbacks for Baker, and specifically just more drives that he can get this number.
Yeah, I like it. I also saw something about Baker's O-line you were saying, and I saw this online as well about the O-line just allowing the most pressure on him. And that's it's just the main thing for him having to scramble for sure. So we have to take a look because I know on Pickett that I could put together an SGP. So I'm going to share this screen again. And I'm not sure which one. Certain times you can't SGP certain things. Like I was trying to SGP today the under in Justin Herbert rush attempts because it's now minus 152 and it wouldn't let me SGP it. So that was very annoying. And I also am having technical problems with my laptop. So please hold while I pull this website up. I know that someone in the chat asked a question. What are your thoughts on Bowers less than 5.5 receptions?
Oh, of course, giving me the one player that's actually questionable tonight.
Right.
I think
So
that
I
he
guess
does
that's
play.
the point, though, right? Like, how do we attempt
Yeah.
the Bowers props when we don't really know how he's doing? And his props are posted, so clearly there's something going on.
Right. So my thoughts on Brock Bowers today are kind of twofold. Number one, if he's playing, I would think that they would give him as close to a full workload as possible. With that said, at the same time, I guess the good news is he led the team in the short amount of time that he was out there. He led the team in target share and first read share. Most importantly, he had a 31% first read target share. So we know that the offense with Smith in there is going to give him a general 30%. Obviously low sample size first read situation. So they're obviously scheming to get him the ball out early and quickly. I would say personally, Bowers is a fade for me, but if you're really looking for something, I do think that the over 5.5 is there if he's playing a full game.
Okay, there's your Brock Bowers insight. So share screen, going over to Pickett, and let's put together this SGP. Producing the show. Okay, so this is something cool too on Pickett that you guys can use, that you can put together SGPs and it'll tell you where you get the best odds, which book you can use, etc. So I've already put in my CJ Stroud over passing yards, which I'll get to in a minute. I put in Kyrie Fairbairn over 1.5 field goals. Baker Mayfield. So you like his rushing yards. I also, and I'll get your thoughts on this just to talk it out, a bit confused as to why Baker Mayfield over 1.5 passing touchdowns is plus 125. As you're you could get plus 125, you get plus 120 on FanDuel. Baker threw for 3 last week. This Houston Texans secondary allowed the 3rd most passing touchdowns last year. I know they only allowed 1 to Matt Stafford last week in the Rams. Stafford didn't even play in the preseason. We can't talk about week 1 stats as gospel the same way that I didn't trust the Carolina Panthers or the Chicago Bears run Ds. You've got to look at week 2 the same way I kind of looked at last year. And I don't trust the Houston Texans secondary against Baker, who is throwing a record pace in touchdowns. He's doubled CJ Stroud passing TDs in the last year.
Right. Yeah, my whole thing is that this offense did not take a step back from losing their OC, and they just came in firing, passing a ton. We also know that the Texans did actually a pretty decent job in stopping Kieran Williams last week. He still got in the end zone, but he was quite inefficient on the ground. And so if we expect the Rachaad White, Bucky Irving duo to go similarly like last week, where they didn't really impressed by any means necessary with a lot of volume from Bucky. I do think that they're going to have to find ways to manufacture offense, and that's why I'm kind of just digging into this and believing in this pass rate stuff for Tampa. So while some of this stuff looks interesting, I do think that you just trust Baker touchdowns. That seems like their clear path to points tonight.
Okay, so if let's just say, how many legs do we want this thing to be? What's the analytics tell us about legs in an SGP for Monday Night Football?
I think that we have a healthy amount to where we, if you want to go in this first game, I think that 3 is totally doable. I think that 4, getting the Fairbairn stuff in as the 4th leg would be nice. So I'm open to doing whatever.
Here's
I
the
think we can
thing.
go
So
4.
I could do Baker over, let's see, Baker rushing yards. Where are you? Baker over rushing yards. You liked over, 14.5 minus 130, 15.5 minus 112?
I like 14.5.
Okay. So now throwing that all in. Oh, it made us do 16.5, I guess. I don't know
Okay,
why.
fair enough. I think he's got a good 5-6 scrambles in him tonight.
So this is a 4-leg SGP. We're getting plus 835 for a 4-legger. Fairbairn over his field goals, Stroud over passing yards, Baker over passing touchdowns, and Baker over rushing yards.
I'm for it. I like those a lot.
That's on ESPN Bet at plus 835. The others, you're not really getting as much value down there. On DK, plus 475, plus 416 on FanDuel, plus 545 on Fanatics, plus 525 on BetMGM. But again, these are all the things that you could do using Pickett, and you could see all the different, on Pickett Pro, you see all these different ways to get these SGPs. Kind of shocked that we could get a plus 835 on ESPN Bet. That's kind of nice.
It is very nice.
Someone's asking in the chat about Chubb under rushing yards. Should we take a look at this? That was something that I was actually also talking about, and we could talk about that before we put this SGP away. So I'll get my stats up on the Nick Chubb numbers. I was very nervous about his rushing yards. Where am I? So the Bucs allowed the 4th least rushing yards per game to running backs last year and 2nd least rush attempts. And Nick Chubb, it's at 51.5. He's coming off a 60-yard rushing game. What were your initial thoughts on Nick Chubb?
Yeah, he had 13 carries, and with that, like Woody Marks, like they had 4 running backs involved on the ground. I understand that those 3 guys, Marks, Pierce, Agumbawale, all 3 of those guys had less than 3 rushing attempts. By the way, we do have inactives for this first game, and Dameon Pierce is an inactive, healthy coach's decision scratch. So there will be Woody Marks as the RB2, Agumbawale. Let me just check to see. While we're doing this live,
I wanted somebody's over on receiving yards out of the backfield. Tampa struggles against pass catching backs.
I guess that would probably end up being Marks or Agumbawale at this point, because we only saw 1 target from Chubb, and I don't think we should expect anything more than that. So yeah, Dameon Pierce healthy and active, which is certainly interesting. In terms of I'm still on the under of the rushing yards. Tampa has always been a pass funnel in this situation. And I don't think that changes here tonight. They also held the Atlanta Falcons to 48 total yards on the ground last week. That was Bijan got all that stuff through the air. So I think that's a trend moving forward. I don't think Chubb should beat this tonight.
7.5 for Agumbawale and his receiving yards. I feel like that's attainable. 7.5, as long as it's not split with somebody else.
Very interesting.
Because I was looking at those stats as well. Bucs allowed the 3rd most receptions per game to wide receivers and 9th most in week 1. So you could look over receptions, you could look over receiving yards. They just struggle against pass catching backs. And I feel like it's something that, I don't know, maybe against the Bucs pass rush, they would be dumping the ball off.
It seems very, very attainable, in my opinion.
Okay. So we're leaving the 4 legs of the parlay.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, I messed up the production of this. Silly me. That's our 4-leg parlay. Fairbairn, we've got 2 legs each. I like CJ Stroud over passing yards, and I like Baker Mayfield over passing touchdowns. And Jared likes the over field goals for Kylie Fairbairn and Baker Mayfield over rushing yards. I know we didn't really talk too much about the next game. Anything in Chargers Raiders since you're dying to stay up at past 1 in the morning for the NFL?
I think if either game was to shoot out, unfortunately, it's probably this one, which might make us make us more excited to stay awake. But I do think that one thing has been true for both sides, and again, very small sample size of 1 week, but we saw both teams do extremely well in the passing game on either side. And more importantly, not even like the fact that they did well is one thing, but the fact that the Chargers led the NFL with a 69.5% pass rate and had the highest pass rate over expectation, 15% in addition, which is pretty insane, all things considered. Chiefs usually lead the league along with the Bengals around 8%, 9% the last 2 seasons. That's interesting. And then the fact that the Raiders surprisingly threw 34 times at Geno Smith, who ended up going over 350 passing yards, and they were the third highest pass rate over expectation team. For me, I'm talking a lot about pass rate over expectation. Basically, essentially, what that means is number one, they'll run a lot of plays. Number two, this game should be fast and pace, and a lot of incompletions, most likely, which leads to more plays, more snaps, more drives, and more. And that to me screams game total over. So I think this one goes way over tonight.
Well, if everyone stays up for it, then they deserve a show, and that's what it seems like they might get. Any sides that you're looking at tonight?
I'm going Chargers. I really respect how the Chargers came in and shut down the Chiefs, and I do think that if these passing numbers are for real for Herbert and he continues, even not even if he goes out and does the same exact thing, but I do think that they can control and win in this situation through the air. We saw the Patriots able to do that too, and despite them losing that game. But I do think when it comes to trusting in the offense for more than 1 week, I'm trusting the Chargers offensively and defensively.
Why have we not mentioned Ladd McConkey at all?
We should. I mean, he ran. What's different for Ladd this year is the fact that Keenan Allen's obviously in here. We didn't know how that was going to go. Most notably, at least through a 1-game sample, they gave Keenan Allen his slot role back when he was in as a Charger. He was the slot man for all those years alongside the receivers that he's played with there, and obviously they had Mike Williams on the outside in those systems. Ladd's going to be moved around quite a bit, but he did play only half of his snaps in the slot where Keenan kind of flip-flopped with him there. So if they're moving Ladd around, I do expect that to be tremendous for his fantasy production. And I don't know how much I believe of the Quentin Johnston stuff. He did lead the team in air yards with 29%, but when push comes to shove, I think it's McConkey, Keenan, and then Johnston in that order for me. I think that like McConkey should have the ability to be a top 12 wide receiver this season.
For this Chargers-Raiders game, if I had more numbers on Ashton Genty, I would say fade him in the run game and take him in the passing game, something like over receptions, under rush attempts. That's where the Chargers up front have been really dominant, and they are good at stopping the run, better at least than they have been against pass-catching running backs. So Ashton Genty, I would lean more to the over in the passing game. It is just tough for me to pull the trigger when we haven't really seen more than 1 game on Ashton Genty at the NFL level.
I do think that he will likely be inefficient in some of these matchups early on in the year. But what was really good and positive is that he did have 86% of Las Vegas's offensive snaps and 19 of the 22 running back carries. Like, he is one of those full-blown workhorses. He is the Saquon. He is a Josh Jacobs. Those kinds of roles, the Christian McCaffrey, obviously. I do think that the Chargers held backs in Brazil to very low workloads and numbers. So that point that you made is going to be accurate for week 2 as well. But if you're going to go anywhere and we're projecting like I am to have the Chargers be winning in this game, I do think Genty's got more in the tank from a pass catching standpoint too.
Perfect. We're on the same page there as well. Jared Block, let everyone know where they can find your work and what you're working on lately.
My X account is at Jared R. Block. I work for Trinity Analytics for the NFL, MLB, and NBA fantasy seasons, as well as player prop discussion. And you can find that at Trinity_analytic on X.
Thank you so much, Jared. As always, he's here every Monday on the Prop Queen Pod. We put together our SGPs. We give you winners. Jared, we'll see you next week, and good luck tonight.
Cheers to a great night.